Hi guys, Super Secret Tech here, and I'm doing match 1 with the Delver build. I'm going to go ahead and choose to play first. And let's see what we got going on. I like starting off with Preordained first if I don't have a Delver, and Ponder first if I do have a Delver. Uh, I know it's kind of weird sounding, but it's just always worked out well for me. I don't really care about an island or a Vapor Snag right now. Urzaland, okay. Here I think I'm going to just say Island Go, just in case he tries to over-excel. In worst case scenario, I can play Spellstutter Stride at the end of his turn. Worst case scenario. So that's 2 cards, potentially. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let that go. Alright, we're getting better. Oh, that's sweet. Okay, so we want Ponder on bottom, Preordain, then Cloud. No, I don't want to shuffle. I'm going to go ahead and play my Cloud of Fairies. Untapped, that way I can counter for 2 off Spellstutter Sprite, or I can also Mana Leak or Counterspell as needed. So if he plays a spell with converted mana cost 2, I can Spellstutter Sprite it, and then Ninja the Spellstutter Sprite, and basically get a 2-for-1 on counters and draw a card. So that's pretty legit. Ninja the D-Power is just so good in this deck. It is ridiculously powerful. I'm very glad that they didn't ban it. Or the Cloud of Fairies. Cloud of Fairies is much more under control with Temporal Fissure banned. Here, I'm going to go ahead and Preordain just to see if I can get an island. And a double Ponder. I'm going to go ahead and put one of those on the bottom and one on top. And I'm just going to attack for 1 here and pass my turn. This is the other reason that I don't like running like 12 1-mana draw spells, is because you end up getting nothing but those, and they're kind of empty after the first couple of turns. Like, I've hit a pretty thick patch of them, and I could care less about ever seeing one from here on out. Like, I want to get more than 1 card, or I want to get a creature, or I want to get a counter at this point in the game. So here's a perfect opportunity to use Spellstutter Sprite, counter the Lightning Bolt, and we'll see what he does. If he has like an Ulamog's Crusher, I'll probably Ponder, hoping to get a Vapor Snag so I can bounce that, because that's going to be annoying. But that's really the only thing I can think of that I really don't want to see with Tron. And that's a pretty good sign. I'm assuming they kind of take the blue-red list, because that's what this kind of looks like, and just added Urza's pieces to it instead of Cloud Post. Doesn't seem near as good, though. That life gain was huge. Absolutely huge in that deck. Like, that's what made the deck work, was the life gain. And if he wants to here, I guess he can Flashback Firebolt and kill my Sprite. Seems kind of a waste to me. Alright. Well, that's what he wanted to do. We'll let him have it at it. Let's Ponder here. Okay, so this is an interesting choice. So I'm going to go ahead and get... I'm going to put Counterspell on bottom, then Delver, then Island. I don't want to shuffle my library, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and play an island here. Next turn, I'm going to play Delver, and then it's going to flip with that counterspell. So it's going to be a 3-2. So that's nice. Yeah, he can have his Prophetic Prism. At this point, I almost kind of have to save 2 mana, just in case he has like a Crusher or some big spell, because he has Tron on board. That's the nice thing about running the more control-y version of this deck, is that I can afford to do these things. Ooh. I think I'm going to use Spellstar Sprite that, because I really don't want to deal with 3 1/1 goblins. And, you know, it gets him into play, so if I want to, I can Ninja next turn, which I probably won't, but it's a good option to have. Okay. Gonna play Expedition Map, sure. Go get you a land, buddy. Could care less. Sacrifice it, return a creature card, which he doesn't have a creature card in his graveyard. So I'm assuming he's going to try to play a creature card, and then have the sack outlet as a way to deal with it. Now, this is the second match I played since the bannings. I've been busy, I started a new job, and so I have not had quite the time that I used to play, unfortunately. Here, I think I'm just going to Delver, attack with the Sprite, and pass the turn. I'm at this point, like last turn, like I really didn't want to deal with Rebirth, but it wasn't worth like using a counter spell to deal with the Rebirth either. Even if I'd have had the extra mana, I probably wouldn't have counterspelled it. It's just a waste. You know, with the Spell Splitter Sprite is kind of a 2-for-1 for me, because I got to counter a spell and I got to play my creature, which I was wanting to do anyway. Just because it gives me access to Ninja. Like, Ninja's really good. Especially in a matchup like this, because it gives you an extra counterspell. That's the way you had to think of ninjing Spellstar Sprite in this kind of a matchup, is it's a second counterspell. I'm going to go ahead and Mana Leak here, just because he doesn't have the mana to pay for it, and that counterspell can come in really, really handy later on in the game. And if he attacks here, I'm just going to take it, because I'm going to very quickly outrace him. So now he has to pay 3 to get it back, so that's 2 turns before he can cast it again. So I'm okay with that. Gives me a little bit of time to build up. Of course, he also doesn't know that my Delver's about to flip. He can probably guess though, since I pondered. Yes, I do want to reveal that card, as a matter of fact. And then we're going to set up exactly what I was talking about. We're going to Ninja this Spell Stutter, just because it's a second way of getting a counterspell, basically. And, oh, look at that. And I got a land off the deal. Hot dog. So here, I'm out damaging him by 2 points a turn, and I have a 4-point life total swing up of him, so I'm sitting pretty good. He can play Crusher this turn. Luckily, I have Counterspell in hand, and he knows it. So if he wants to waste his Hunted to get Crusher so I can counter it, I'm okay with that play. And then if he tries to do something like with 1 mana, you know, I can just stop it. Okay, he's got a Crusher. I'm going to go ahead and counter it. Now, the good news is he only knows I have 1 counterspell. He doesn't know I have 2 counterspells. So that's good information for me to have and him not to. Here, I can do this a couple of different ways. I think I'm just going to attack with the Delver, though, and play it safe. And then he's going to probably sack his Hunted, get a Crusher back. And I very well might just bounce it at the end of his turn, just so he takes the life. And maybe it'll get him to attack. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how he plays this out. But I mean, I'm pretty happy with this advantage right here. 3 every turn and him not attacking is a win-win for me. Especially when I can Sprite. Sprite's huge. It gives you so much reach in so many different ways, because it counterspells, it's evasion, which Pauper doesn't have a whole lot of answers for, and it also lets you trigger Ninja, which is pretty amazing. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna go and let it resolve and see what he does here. I know it's paying 2 spells to get rid of his Crusher this way, But just the fact that I can make him wait. That's like almost like a time walk for 1 mana. Um, and he's not really doing anything, so it seems like a pretty good play to me. I mean, the other thing I could have done is counter, swung with Ninja, shot one of his tokens back up to his hand, but he'd have probably blocked with all three and killed my Ninja anyway, so it wasn't worth it. Now, if I had 2 Vapor Snags, definitely worth it. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking he was going to do. The reason I'm attacking here is just because I don't really see a point in not attacking. Because those tokens aren't going anywhere. And it just helps me secure that life race that much closer. Because now he's going to play Crusher again. And, oh, looky here. And my buddy's Spell Stutter Sprite comes to save the day from mean old Lightning Bolt. So now he's going to play Crusher again. And I can counter it. And I have 4 damage, so he's on a 2-turn clock. Crusher's not going to get there. Even if I let Crusher resolve, it's not going to get there. So that's really good news for me. But I am going to counter it regardless, because it's worth countering. It just makes him do that much more math. Because now he's like, oh, I can't kill him in 2 turns in return. Because if he could have stopped one of my attacks, he could have won with that Crusher. This is going to be a very interesting turn. I I had to take the gamble of, do I go ahead and play Mole Drifter and draw the 2 cards, or do I go ahead and play it for full cost? I think the correct play here is going to be just to get the 2 cards, because I'm winning on board. So I'm going to cast with Evoke. Oh, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, I'm okay with that. So now if he can't kill both my creatures this turn, he's dead. And the reason behind that is because I have Ninja, so if he killed the Delver, I can Ninja the Spellstar Sprite, and I'd be fine still. Against him, Mana Leak's not so good, but Deprive's pretty good. Steel Sabotage is actually pretty good against him, too. He had enough artifacts to make it worth. Well, I don't really care about countering most of his artifacts, though. I could do Dispels. The Vapor Snags aren't really all that great. I'm going to take those out. I guess I can leave Mana Leak in. And I'll go ahead and do the steals. Why not, right? So this is match 1. I'm in the tournament practice room. Because again, I don't want to play a tournament where I'm spending money until I played the deck a little bit. And the way I arrived at this deck list, all I really did was look at what's been doing good in 4Os and what hasn't, and kind of tweaked what I wanted to play compared to, like, even though the deck itself is popular, building it this way is not. And that's what gives you an advantage when you're playing in pre-releases, in PREs and player run events, or player run events are PREs. In the tournaments, like playing in Pauper dailies, is playing something that's good and is proven, but just a little bit different, so the opponent doesn't know exactly what to expect. It can be really, really strong in your favor. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and double Cloud of Fairies, just to get my attack on. And, you know, I have counter backup, so I'm pretty confident with being able to run both of them out, because I can either Mana Leak or Counterspell, just depending on the situation. You know, his deck's a little slow, and my deck's able to capitalize on that. Oh, and that's beautiful. So now I can Sprite for 3 or Mana Leak, which is really good. I'll probably end up using Mana Leak first for the sole purpose that that Sprite for 3 is pretty good against almost everything in his deck. And that Mana Leak should pretty much stop him dry. It's a time walk at this point. And even though he has card advantage, I have so much stopping him, and he can only play so much a turn because his mana cost is so much higher than mine. That's not worth mana leaking in my opinion. So I'm gonna let it go. Like, the stuff I want to stop is stuff that's gonna kill my creatures or give him a bunch of creatures. Like, that's the only things I care about at this point. Because I'm winning the life race at a pretty rapid pace at the moment. I'm gonna go ahead and ponder here before I attack, just to see what's coming up, because that gives me a better option of how I'm gonna play my turn. Okay, so we definitely want a island. We definitely want the counter spell, and then we really don't want to see that third island, or that second island, I mean, I'm sorry. But we're gonna just have to make it work. Like, that wasn't worth shuffling away, because we did really need the land, and once we get up to 5, we can cast Mulldrifter, which is nice. And getting that extra counter against a deck like his is pretty powerful. Hard counters are really good against these high mana decks because it's a time walk. I basically have next turn I'm gonna have 3 time walks in hand because they're all 2 mana, and they all basically make him skip a turn. And all those are extremely powerful when coupled with the fact that I have damage on the board. That's every single turn I'm swinging for 2. It might not be a whole lot, but it still adds up. It's constant damage over time. And I don't think he has a flyer in his deck. He's wanting to do something here because he didn't cast Firebolt. So that's interesting. He might not have done that just because he wanted to try to bait me out. There it is. So in this particular case, I'm going to go and Sprite it because it's under 3 mana, and Mana Leak wouldn't have covered it, and I don't really want to waste a counter spell on a Firebolt. It's not worth it. But see, that was a time walk. That's what I mean. Like, if you get 3 time walks in your hand or 4 time walks in your hand, it's really, really powerful. Especially when even if you're swinging for 1 a turn, that's 3 turns that they're not going to be able to do a whole lot. And now if he goes to like play a Crusher, I can Mana Leak it. If he doesn't play land, if he plays land, I can counterspell it, so I have some options. Now he's finally starting to be like, oh, I'm on a pretty quick clock here. The other thing you'll notice between my build and a lot of other builds is I'm not running Phantasmal Bear. I'm running the Sea Sprite as a substitute, because 1, it's a counterspell. And I'm actually going to just let that go at this point. I'm not too worried about the rebirths. Unless he plays another one, I don't care, because I'm going to outrace him. But red's very popular right now, and I think it's worth it for me personally to go ahead and play to that protection from red, because that's just 1 spell he can't fire. That's 1 fairy he can't remove off the board in his build. Like, he has no way of dealing with that card. And even if it's only swinging for 1 a turn, that's still 1 damage I didn't have beforehand. Now I can cast all 3 counters in my hand at any point in time, so that's very handy. It's not looking good for him at all at this point. It's not worth countering. I'm going to let it go. Still going to let it go. It's just not worth it. If I had another Spell Starter Sprite, I would have definitely done it, but it just wasn't worth it with the current setup. That and knowing how many creatures I'm running and how much stuff I'm running that can deal with his deck. Because, like, the only thing that he can really do is he can do a big burn spell or he can do a crusher that I'm really worried about. That's actually going to put him ahead in the race, so I'm going to have to counter that one, unfortunately. I can't let him get too far ahead. You know, I still need some breathing room so I can catch up and win the race here. Pyroblast, sure. I'll counter the Pyroblast as well. I probably should run Hydroblast in this. I just figured the Sea Sprites are probably enough. They might not be. I might need to test more on that one. I also haven't seen a deck like his in the top tiers, so I don't even know if it's that good. I'm doing really well against it though, which is comfortable for me because I haven't played against this deck before, or even anything close to it. Here is an interesting option. I think I'm going to put the Steel Sabotage on bottom, just because there's not really anything I'm worried about, and go and put the Ponder on top, and I'm going to go and Ponder, just to see what I have coming up. Got a Spellstar, Sprite, a Preordain, and Island. So I'm going to go ahead and put Island on bottom, then Preordain, and go ahead and put Sprite in hand. I'm not going to shuffle my library, just in case he plays like something else like a Rebirth, or a Pyroblast, or a Lightning Bolt. That way I can get around it. The other thing is that Sprite doubles my damage per turn, which can be very, very valuable at this point in the game. And I don't care about mana anymore. Like, I don't want to see that land. Like, when I get that Preordain, the first thing I'm doing is shuffling that island back in. I think I'm going to wait here to cast Sprite, but I'll definitely cast it next turn if he doesn't do anything. So I'm actually going to send both of these to the bottom and see what I get. And I got a Ponder. I'm going to go and Ponder. Oh, look at that. So we can do Remove Soul, then Sprite, and then Cloud of Fairies. The reason I'm doing in that order is because I'm going to be able to Cloud of Fairies right here, untap 2 lands, have Sprite / Deprive mana up, and be able to do both, basically. Okay, so he's trying to force me into a counter war, which I'm fine with because I have a Sprite in hand, and I can still untap. Okay, so basically I'm back to square one, but I have 2 untapped mana. And that's why we cast the Cloud of Fairies and got that instead of the Sprite. It's because now I'm untapped, so I can still counter on his turn if I need to. And the fact that I have another Sprite coming up is pretty cool. Yeah, it's not worth countering. Like, that interaction is probably the best interaction I've seen so far in his deck. As far as stuff that I like. You know, if this goes to a game 3, I'm definitely going to bring the Dispels in. Okay, that is worth countering, I think, at this point in the game, because that's going to put him ahead of the life race. And that's bad. We want to win the game. You know, and that can possibly really bite me in the tail, but I think I'm going to be okay. Sweet. That probably wasn't the smartest play on his part, because he basically just let me know that, hey, you can go ahead and go crazy and win the game. Because unless he can stop me here, I win. And there's only a handful of things that he can do with me holding 2 counters that's going to really matter. Like, unless he has direct damage, I win. Yeah, I'm not even worried about countering that, because I just went on my turn. Alright, so that's match one. Stick around and I'll have more for you guys later.